from Singapore to London was flagged off today. The last overland expedition is recreating a drive in the opposite direction that took place 6 decades ago. In 1955, 6 students made the 29,000-kilometre trip from Cambridge and Oxford universities to Singapore. This time around, 8 people will attempt to reach London in 100 days, driving one of the very same vehicles that was used.
This is Oxford, the Land Rover that made the trip from London to Singapore 6 decades ago. Along with another vehicle, it ferried 6 people during a 6-month journey. 64 years later, it's now making its way back to the English capital. This time, it'll be a group of 8 in 3 vehicles. The 1955 first overland expedition saw the team go through countries such as Syria, Iran, and Pakistan. This year's last overland expedition will take a slightly different route, traveling over 16,000 kilometers across 20 cities. Filmmaker Alex Pescobi is set to document the adventure, and it will be released next year.
The technology from 1955 is still there in the car, so it's, that is authentic. Obviously, back in the day, they didn't have GPS, they didn't have email, they didn't have the internet. So obviously, our journey will be slightly easier because we can click on Google Maps and find our way home. But, at the end of the day, it's still the same journey, it's still the same distance, it's still a lot of the same countries. So, we're hugely excited to be recreating history in a way.
On that historic journey years ago, Patrick Murphy and Nigel Newbury, now in their 80s, and they found themselves back in Oxford in support of the return leg.
Just like old times, except I'm having to find out how the knobs work. It's a long time since I drove a Land Rover like this.
It reminds me, I used to sit here, you see, and I was the navigator, and I'd be telling the driver, we've done how many miles, and we're going to do how many more, and we're trying to get to this place.
The journey would have been more special if Tim Slessor could have made the trip back to London. He was one of the original 6, but had to give this a miss due to health reasons. His grandson, though, is taking his place.
Because he was willing to do it, aged 87, obviously he can't be here, so I'll go and sort of fill in for him. Hopefully he'll be able to join us at some stage if he recovers and gets better.
Joining the expedition is Singaporean Larry Leong. The 51-year-old is no stranger to such long drives, having clocked over 200,000 kilometers.
This is the longest trip, 100 days, and it's 100 days I'm away from my wife and my daughter. It gives me a good opportunity to know what goes on behind the scene in making a documentary.
90 Land Rovers joined in the team's grand send-off, escorting them to the border. The last overland expedition is expected to arrive in London by December.